Ausgabe. Wo ist dann noch? Aha, immer drei. Bei mir steht ganz schön. Danke. Okay, ich mache jetzt also immer zwei.
Also dann wiederholen wir beim ersten Teil hier. Alle Wiederholungen beim ersten Teil, dann...
also einfach wie es gehört.
Ja, alles klar. Ja.
Also Wiederholung und dann wieder weiter. Ja.
Schnelle würde ich es nicht machen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the 19th Congress of the European Society for Photobiology. The Congress format was originally planned to be held at the Faculty of Natural Science for the Paris-Lautrec University Salzburg. Considering the circumstances of COVID, the Congress had to shift to a full virtual format. Nevertheless, I wish you a lot of interesting discussions, profound lectures, and insightful conversations between the 350 participants all over the world. Science in particular has proven how important it is on mastering major global challenges like this COVID pandemic, and science is without doubt one of the strongest driving forces for the development of a society. Therefore, you are doing incredibly valuable works for all of us. My special thanks goes to Professor Dr. Franz Trautinger as the current president of the European Society for Photobiology and private docent Dr. Christian Plätzer from the Department of Biosciences at the Congress President and Chairman of the Organizing Committee. I wish you all the best and an interesting Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the 19th Congress of the European Society for Photobiology. The Congress format was originally planned to be held at the Faculty of Natural Science for the Paris-Lautrec University Salzburg. Considering the circumstances of COVID, the Congress had to shift to a full virtual format. Nevertheless, I wish you a lot of interesting discussions.
so. 1, 2, 3, Test, Test, Test. 1, 2, so, so, so. 1, 2. So, 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 so. 1, 2, 3, so. So, so. 1, 2, 3, so. So, 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 so. So. 1, 2. So, so. 1, 2, 3, so, so, so. 1, 2, 3. Du hast einen Tonabtrag bitte, gell? Weil wir machen sicher Soundchecks jetzt nachher.
dear colleagues and friends, dear fellow photobiologists. My name is Franz Trautinger, current president of the European Society of Photobiology, and it is on behalf of the Executive Committee and the local and scientific organizing committees that I welcome you to the 19th Congress of the European Society for Photobiology. As this is the first Congress in the long series of ESP Congresses that is, for deplorable reasons obvious to all of us, taking place in the World Wide Web, I extend those greetings to wherever on the globe you might currently be and over whichever device you might currently watch and listen. Originally planned to take place at the University of Salzburg with Professor Christian Plätzer at my side as our local host and organizer, the Congress is now virtual, with one single on-site live event remaining, namely this very welcome reception here at this beautiful location in the midst of the historical center of Salzburg. I admit that when we started planning the virtual Congress, I was skeptical and rather anxious whether it would eventually work out and reach a level corresponding to the standards set by the long series of ESP Congresses of the past. I did not, however, sufficiently consider the diligence, the circumspection, the tirelessness, the collegiality, and the unlimited patience of Christian Plätzer, to whom ESP and I myself are forever grateful and indebted. Together with Mrs. Ursula Partsch and Benjamin Brocke from our Congress office, who both share all the features just mentioned of Christian, and together with the members of the local organizing committee, all above Giorgio Miolo and Francesco Ghetti, we had a real dream team at our hands, able to overcome all problems, even the seemingly unsolvable. In the name of the whole society, thank you all so much. I further did not sufficiently consider the enthusiasm of all of you, photobiologists from Europe and from all over the world, to follow our invitations to participate and to submit your most recent science, undoubted by the pandemic. Through these collaborative efforts, it was possible to put together what I think is a remarkable program and to create a sound technical basis for its implementation. May our internet connections be strong and stable, and as somebody said earlier, may the force be with us. I wish all of us a successful conference. Let us do our best to convert an obvious disadvantage into a benefit and to use the additional features offered by the virtual Congress platform as good as we can to make this event a lively, successful, and memorable one. Before I close, it is my honor and pleasure to announce and congratulate this year's winners of the Society's awards. These are Professors Dietrich Aberbeck, Dayaba Hassan, and Tadeusz Sarna for their excellence in photobiological research. More about the awardees will be given at the General Assembly on Thursday. And I want to congratulate Anne-Laure Bulin and Artemis Bogosian for achieving the Young Investigator Awards. They will present their award-winning research in plenary lectures on Wednesday morning, so please attend those sessions. Last but not least, I thank Dr. Wilfried Haslauer, the governor of Salzburg, and Professor Dr. Hendrik Lehnert, director of the Paris-Lauteron University of Salzburg, for their hospitality and for the support, and for being with us, even virtually tonight. Special thanks go to our sponsors. Without their support, the Congress would not have been financially sustainable, so please visit their links on the Congress platform. And with this, I wish us all good luck and hand over the microphone to my colleague Christian Plätzer. Please, Christian.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, on behalf of the local organizing committee, it is my pleasure to warmly welcome you at the 19th Congress of the European Society for Photobiology. We have the great honor to present this welcome evening from the Residenz to Salzburg, located in the heart of the historic center of the city. First mentioned about 1120, For centuries, the Prince Archbishops of Salzburg resided at the residence and used this palace to present and represent their political status. The building took on its current Renaissance appearance under the auspices of Archbishop Wolf Dietrich Reithenau at the end of the 19th century. Today, the Salzburg Residence Palace is a museum and one of the most impressive attractions in the city. For making available this very nice location, we're actually in a room named the Congress Room. I'm very grateful to the governor of Salzburg, Landeshauptmann Dr. Wilfried Haslauer, and the mayor of the city, Ingenieur Harald Breuner. A very special thank you to Rector Professor Dr. Henrik Lehnert for his support of the event. This year's Congress features a very comprehensive scientific program with over 375 contributions in form of plenary and invited lectures, oral communications, shotgun presentations, and posters. The success of the event is granted by you, the 444 registered participants from Europe, North America, Asia, South America, and Australia. Your impressive expertise and the presentation of your convincing scientific achievements are, of course, the fundament of this Congress. Thank you so much for your contribution. I want to thank the President of the ESP, Professor Franz Trautinger, and the Executive Committee for the trust and for giving me the privilege and honor to serve as local host of this Congress. I'm deeply indebted to the members of the local organizing committee, Professor Giorgia Miolo and Professor Francesco Ghetti, who tirelessly and in a very swift and professional way organized the registration and helped to set up the Congress program. A big thank you to the local organizing committee members, Professor Angelika Hofer and Professor Barbara Kramer, for their steady support. I want to express my gratitude to Mrs. Ursula Patsch and Mr. Benjamin Brocke from the Tagungsbüro, and last but not least, to Pino Vasarelli, who together with Francesco Ghetti maintained the Congress webpage. Their help made possible the transition from a presential to a virtual event in such a short time. Now I hope you enjoy the evening with our first plenary lecture given by Franz Trautinger and classical music from Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Joseph Haydn, performed by the Concertante Streichquartett Salzburg. I wish you all an inspiring, enjoyable, and memorable Congress, and thank you all again for your participation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the 19th Congress of the European Society for Photobiology. The Congress format was originally planned to be held at the Faculty of Natural Science for the Paris-Lausanne University Salzburg. Considering the circumstances of COVID, the Congress had to shift to a full virtual format. Nevertheless, I wish you a lot of interesting discussions, profound lectures, and insightful conversations between the 350 participants all over the world. Science in particular has proven how important it is on mastering major global challenges like this COVID pandemic, and science is without doubt one of the strongest driving forces for the development of a society. Therefore, you are doing incredibly valuable works for all of us. My special thanks goes to Professor Dr. Franz Trautinger as the current president of the European Society for Photobiology and private docent Dr. Christian Plätzer from the Department of Biosciences at the Congress President and Chairman of the Organizing Committee. I wish you all the best and an interesting Congress.
Professor Trautinger, Professor Plätzer, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to welcome all of you on behalf of the University of Salzburg at the occasion of the 19th Congress of the European Society of Photobiology. I do know that the organizers were almost desperately looking forward to holding a physical conference here. Now it's gone virtual. Nevertheless, this virtual conference provides you with a glimpse of the Baroque beauty of Salzburg, with the opening ceremony taking place in the residence, which is former home of the founding fathers of our university, the Benedictine archbishops. And moreover, this virtual conference also provides you with a great outreach and to screens all over the world. In 2003, as I was told, the Congress took place in Austria for the first time. Now it's returning to Austria. It's in Salzburg, and we are extremely happy and proud to be host of this conference in our beautiful university town. No doubt, this is the most important congress on the physiology and on the pathophysiology of the photobiology. It's a great number of people attending the Congress. I've been told you're among 350 at the moment, and you will hear and you will listen to numerous keynotes to symposia, and there will be many events to foster the ambition of young scientists. I carefully went through the program, and I was absolutely impressed. It's a superb program, and ranging over and spanning, covering a wide range of topics from photobiology basics to photomedicine and to environmental photobiology. Given my own background in endocrinology and metabolism, I was always intrigued by the effects of light on the human body. For instance, on bone formation through the vitamin D system, or on circadian rhythms that we studied in great detail with regards to hormone production and metabolic health. Later on, you will hear a certainly most interesting, most intriguing talk about the Janus-headed effects of light, demonstrating that it is indeed essential to thoroughly understand the interaction of light and cells in order to avoid harm and to implement novel treatment strategies. You will also learn that photobiology is an exciting area of ongoing research, utilizing state-of-the-art methods in light-mediated receptor-ligand interaction or optogenetics. As all of you know, one of the more recent Nobel Prizes was awarded to Robert Lefkowitz. This was in 2012. And Robert Lefkowitz employed phototransduction methods to study G-protein signaling, an approach paramount to the understanding of numerous diseases associated with defect signal transduction. Beyond studying and discussing these aspects, the Congress is being held at a perfect time in Salzburg, since our university is currently undergoing a substantial refurbishment, with one goal being to enhance the visibility of life sciences and translational medicine in a novel faculty of natural and life sciences. In other words, the right Congress at the right time, at the right place. I wish you a lot of success with this Congress, a great time, inspiring discussions, and a gain of information and knowledge. And hopefully, we will see you all soon in Salzburg in person. My sincere thanks again go to the organizers of this conference, to the program committee, and of course go to all of you who are now eagerly awaiting the data analysis and discussion. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a great time. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear photobiology friends, I'm quite honored to introduce the first and probably most important lecture of this meeting because I'm here as the past president. I can't remember when I had this noble title, but I'm still at least in love with photobiology. Also, I'm not anymore in the real laboratory work anyway. Franz is an old friend of mine, and he worked with me in the dermatology department in Vienna. Unfortunately, he left then for the wilderness in the province of Austria, where he built up an extremely important new department of dermatology. And therefore, I'm very grateful that he chose me to give this introductory remarks. It's a shame that you couldn't be here and see the beautiful city of Salzburg, which today even has sunshine, what we didn't have in the past 5 days or so. But you are on your screens, and perhaps you can look at Salzburg, the beauty of Salzburg, for in some of the information things you could see. So I think I wish the Congress to be guided by wisdom, strength, and beauty. And please, Franz, come to the desk and give us your splendid lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Herbert, for this kind introduction, which is humbling me, in fact. And of course, it is not the most important lecture that you will hear now. It's kind of probably a lecture that will help to set the tone for the things to come. And strictly speaking, you could call it a kind of a semi-scientific lecture, as you probably might conclude from the title, which is Love and Hate of Sunshine. And I will extend the term sunshine to other sources of ultraviolet radiation and other kinds of light, as you will see. Now, it's usual in up-to-date lectures to start with disclosures. And after almost 60 years on Earth, if I would give you my disclosures on what I experienced with love and hate and everything in between, it might probably be beyond that what you would present at a scientific meeting. So I will use my first slide called disclosures, not for disclosures, but for dedications. And my first dedication is to Herbert Hönigsmann, who gave this kind of introduction. He is, as he said, an ESP founding member and a past president. But anyway, without his support, I wouldn't stand here. He introduced me not only to the society, but to the field of photobiology, more strictly speaking, photodermatology in our case. And as I said, I wouldn't stand here if it wouldn't be Herbert Hönigsmann, who, when I asked him many years ago whether I should accept the invitation to run for president, he encouraged me very much to do that. And that's the reason why I'm standing here, and why I'm talking here to you, and why I'm opening this very Congress. The other dedication that I would like to make at the beginning of the presentation is to the Scientific Advisory Board of the European Society of Photobiology. When we started to plan the Congress, I was rather, as I said at the beginning, anxious whether this will work out. But as soon as I contacted the members of the Scientific Advisory Board, a group of experienced and renowned scientists in Europe and beyond, I received so many ideas and responses that at that time point I knew the Congress will not fail, whatever happens. Special thanks among this group of people go to Sylvia Braslavsky. She's, you would say, a godmother of photobiology in Europe and in Latin America. And it's her responsibility that this very lecture has this very title as it has. She suggested, as a member of the SAB, to give a lecture about love and hate of sunshine. And I immediately took up the idea, and I hope, Sylvia, that I will be able to fulfill your expectations. Now, going into the topic, one could, of course, speaking about love and hate of sunshine, start with antiquity, and with this probably fill a whole day of lecturing. But on the one hand, I'm not a historian, and on the other hand, I will try at least not to extend the 20 or 30 minutes that I have been given. And so I will skip a few thousand years and not start with the old Egyptians. You see here Pharaoh Echnaton with his wife Nofretiti, and they, as you probably know, they had the sun as their sun Ra, or as they called it, as their major goddess, or god, or goddess probably, if we do it gender equally. Now, I will skip a few thousand years, as I said, and come immediately to the Baroque. The Baroque, the area of Baroque represented by the beautiful architecture in this room here and by the whole architecture of Salzburg. It could also be called an era of emotion, and this is witnessed by the music that we hear, that's witnessed by the architecture that we see, is witnessed by the literature. So love and hate and all emotions were on full display in Baroque, and they still are in the city of Salzburg. But at the same time that the era of Baroque overlapped with what is called the Enlightening, meaning an era thinking of reason, the beginning of strictly scientific thinking as we now know it. And this is symbolized on this slide here that you see by Christian Doppler, who gave his name to the Doppler effect, of which, of course, I know all of you are familiar, and which is a very important phenomenon in almost all photobiological experiments and studies and observations that we are doing. So the overtitle or the subtitle of my presentation is not precisely love and hate of sunshine, so it's better about emotions and reason in photobiology. And if we talk about emotion and reason in photobiology, we come back to what we think is the origin of modern photobiology, so the origin of photobiology as we know it today. And we all think that the godfather or the initiator of modern photobiology is this man here, is Niels Finsen. And Finsen was born on a tiny group of islands. I can never pronounce them correctly because Danish is one of the most difficult languages I'm aware of, but you might call it the Faroe Islands. I'm sure you know what I mean. And the problem with the Faroe Islands is I've never been there, but they're most likely very beautiful, but the sun almost never shines. And then Finsen, at least as far as I know about Finsen, became obsessed about the benefits of sunshine that it lacked so much in the Faroe Islands. And he was, at least later in his life, a rather sick person and a sick man, and he believed that sunshine was beneficial to his health, so a kind of emotional approach to sunlight. But what Finsen did and what the achievement of Finsen was that led to the Nobel Prize that was bestowed on him in 1903 was he made reason out of this emotion. So he tried for the first time at this very beginning of scientific reasoning in the turn of the century, to turn this emotion into reason and to take a scientific approach into the effects of sunlight or whatever rays might be in sunlight on disease, and particular on skin disease, and more particular on this terrible ailment that was epidemic at this time, namely skin tuberculosis. And he did this, as I said, in the scientific way, and for this he was awarded the Nobel Prize as the Nobel Committee wrote, a new avenue for medical science. And with this, he discriminated himself strictly from other people who did similar things at the same time. So it was not Finsen really the first one who treated tuberculosis with sunlight or rays from focused rays from the sun through some glass lenses. There were other people around, like the person here, a certain Maximilian Mehl, a policeman in Germany, and he found out that he can make business out of treating people with various diseases, and he promised sichere Heilung, meaning assured healing from any ailment, from skin tuberculosis, from sexually transmitted disease, from cancer, and whatever you think of. So he turned emotion into quackery, and Finsen turned emotion into science. And he was immediately successful. Shortly after having been awarded the Nobel Prize, Finsen Institutes, that means institutes that treated skin tuberculosis with light, were opened up all over Europe. And this is an image showing the opening of such an institution in London by the then King and Queen. But at the same time, so this is reason again, but at the same time, emotion also prevailed. So you see this always goes in parallel. And learning that you can treat tuberculosis with sunlight, people from the United States, and I think this is a US cartoon, propagated sunlight for almost the cure of almost everything, even for economical failure. So sunlight brings success and health. So both is important, and both comes with sunlight. So again, an emotional interpretation of a scientific finding. The same is true for Europe, where sun cure institutes developed, particularly in Switzerland, and this is one of the adverts of such an institute in the Alps. And you can see unbelievable today and undoable today, almost naked children with tan skins in the mountains, exposing themselves to UV rays from the sun. Again, advertised for the cure of almost every ailment that you can think of. The same in the United States did Harvey Kellogg, famous for the Kellogg's cornflakes that you still have probably for your breakfast. And he was also kind of a quack because he designated UV rays or rays from the sun as the miracle working rays, and this is a literal citation from Kellogg's. Miracle working rays that set free energy in your bodies to cure from muscular, mental, and for any other defects that you might have. And he devised, and this also this reverberates into today's life. He devised or invented or recommended irradiation apparatus for areas where the sun is not so prevalent, like, for instance, Salzburg here, where the sun also rarely shines, more commonly than on the Faroe Islands. But anyway, sometimes you believe there is more rain than sunshine in Salzburg, despite all of its beauty. And he devised, as you can see on this diagram here, light boxes. They had incandescent bulbs, so not the modern UV, not the modern UV emitting fluorescence rays, fluorescence bulbs, but simple incandescent bulbs. But anyway, it looks very simple, very similar to a modern tanning device. A witness of this strange development from the 19th to the 20th century is Winston Churchill, that you're going to recognize here. The life of Churchill spanned the 1870s until the second half of the 20th century. And you see him here as a young man, where he was as a soldier in India. And in his books, he vividly describes how his superiors advised him going to the sun-rich areas of India to protect himself perfectly and as good as he can, and always from the sun, with the gear that he wears here. You see the typical tropical helmet and the rest of this military gear that he has. So exposure to the sunlight was regarded as detrimental when Winston went to India at the end of the 19th century. And then he writes in his book about the Second World War that he was so surprised when, during the Second World War, he visited his troops in Northern Africa, as you know, they raided the Germans out of Northern Africa. And when he went there with his, you see, identical gear that he wore 40, 50 years ago, he found that the British soldiers were encouraged by their superiors to sunbath in their spare times. And he found them lying on the beaches almost naked. And the conclusion of Winston, interestingly, was that the advance of science is incredible. That 50 years before, scientists believed the sun is harmful, and 50 years later, they found out eventually that the sun is beneficial. But this was emotional, not reason. We come back to reason, and this is also from the United Kingdom. At the very same time, when sunlight was propagated as a cure for almost any ailment, the Medical Research Council of the United Kingdom asked Dora Colebrook, a microbiologist, to do research on it, so to replace emotion with reason. And Dora Colebrook, and you can read this in this very interesting paper by Edwards that is cited here on this slide, did again very systematic research, controlled prospective studies on children and on factory workers, on mine workers, I think, more particularly in the industry, looking after the health effects on general health of those exposed groups. And funnily enough, she found nothing. So no benefit for the general health of the groups that she investigated. And it was very difficult for her to make this research popular because emotion favoring the beneficial effects of sunlight on general health was so strong. But anyway, another approach to replace or to bring reason into emotion. What remained of the enthusiasm about the beneficial effects of sunlight on the human body is the effect in dermatology. Again, reason here. One of the landmark publications of the group from Harvard in the United States is the invention or the observation that you can very efficiently treat inflammatory skin diseases, in this particular case psoriasis, with ultraviolet radiation, and this was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the most prestigious medical journal that we have. And here you see such an example. I have this image from Professor Hönigsmann, who was one of the earliest proponents of this treatment in Europe. And you see here severe psoriasis on the left side of the slide, and after treatment with ultraviolet radiation and light sensitizing drug, you see a complete clearance of the skin. This was unseen before. So before this treatment was invented or introduced into clinical practice, such a response was not possible to achieve. Here you see some of the proponents of phototherapy in dermatology. So those people brought reason into emotion. You see Thomas P. Fitzpatrick with Klaus Wolff in the upper left photograph. You see Herbert Hönigsmann on the upper right side. You see there's also always emotion into reason, so he's laughing. You see reason alone is probably a dangerous thing. You see van der Leyen, whom many of you probably know because he was also one of the very important members of this society, and Brian Diffie, another major proponent of the reasonable application of ultraviolet radiation in medicine. And there are, of course, a lot of other people that I cannot mention in the shortness of time. But there is also, again, emotion or reasonlessness, or however you might call it, in the application of UV radiation on the skin. And this manifests itself in a continuous, evolution of the sun euphoria I showed you in the beginning of my presentation, following up Kellogg's light bulb, light boxes, and other devices. Sunbeds, tanning parlors appeared in the late 1970s in Europe, and presently all of Germany, all of Europe, all of Austria is covered with those institutes. Also, everybody should know, and everybody who can read must appreciate the evidence that is there, that is lying before our eyes, that these apparatus cause skin cancer if you use them too extensively. So back to emotion. Another example where you can show the interplay between reason and emotion is the introduction of lasers into medicine. And the first laser was fired in 1960 by a physicist, Theodore Maiman, and it needed some time until these treatments were introduced into medicine, and so one of the major proponents of this was Rox Anderson, who introduced not only the term but also the principle of selective photothermolysis, by this enabling the treatment of, let's say, vascular skin lesions or pigmented skin lesions, almost without with as little scar formation as possible, and with as little traumatization of surrounding tissues as possible. So this is reason and science in its purest form, but at the same time, emotion prevailed, and lasers became, the term laser became such a fashionable word immediately after its introduction into medicine that now everybody wants to treat or believes that every kind of disease can be treated. You just need the right type of laser with the right frequency, the right color, and the right energy. So you can buy laser devices for almost any kind of skin or other disease that you might think of, sometimes in the pharmacy. I'm sure you can buy it on Amazon. So emotion is always, lack of reason is always there. Now, another important achievement that was made during the 20th century was the connection between UV radiation or sun exposure and skin cancer. You see here one example of a melanoma on sun-exposed skin. And on the other side, you see an example of a basal cell carcinoma, sun-exposed skin of an elderly woman. And all the epidemiologies that we have from countries the world over, wherever we look at it, all these epidemiologies show that skin cancer rates or skin cancer incidence is rising over the last decade. So as long as we measure it, we find that skin cancer rates are rising. This is an example from the United States, but it looks very much the same in Australia. It looks very, very similar in Germany and in Austria. So wherever you look at it, you find this skin cancer epidemic. And there can be a debate about how much is UV exposure responsible for this increase, but there is no doubt about it that it is responsible. So now this is reason. But what did we do about it? What we did do about it is, and this is also done in all civilized countries in the Western world, to do education. So to propagate sun avoidance, particularly to children, but in the end to the whole population. This is one example for Australia, where they are most professional in doing this kind of activities, and the slogan that they coined is slip, slop, and slap. So to bring everybody to a behavior that avoids sun exposure as much as possible by clothing, by headgear, and by using sunscreens. But what was the end of this? The end of this is shown in this almost last slide, so this is the summary slide 1, that we are moving from one direction to the other direction. On the upper left photograph, you see a scene of I don't know who of you loves the cinema. Those of you probably have already recognized it. It's Death in Venice, this famous movie after a short story by Thomas Mann from Luchino Visconti. And you see how he depicts life on the beach, in this case the Lido of Venice, in the 19th century. You see that all people are completely clothed from head to toe. using an umbrella on top of that. Then you see, it's very similar to what I have shown to you in Winston Churchill's example, a nudist beach, and then you see the direction that we are moving now. So again, kind of an overreaction, namely the advertisement of a complete, full UV-proof dressing when you go outside, particularly to the beaches. So there is always an interplay between reason and science. And this is witnessed in my summary, slide number 2, by the number of societies, and the European Society of Photobiology is one of the most prestigious among them, a number of societies worldwide that try to bring reason into emotion and reason into the seemingly chaos around us by applying the scientific approach that Vincent has devised us more than 100 years ago. And my very last slide is, in fact, the most important summary of all what I have said, namely, use reason, scientific rigor, and emotion, because it's impossible to do it without that, to enjoy this Congress. And with this, I'll thank you all very much for your attention. I look forward to what will happen in the next few days, and I look forward to the next piece of music that we're going to hear. And this is with purpose, selected with purpose. We had, as you probably recognized it, a very famous piece by Mozart, the Little Serenade, or in German called die kleine Nachtmusik, Little Night Music. But I thought we cannot end a photobiological congress with a night music. So our choice was to end with something that has to do with sunrise. And what you will hear now is the so-called Sunrise Quartet by Joseph Haydn. And I look very much forward to that. Please start your performance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.